Thank you, Erica, for this nice introduction. So the organizers asked me to talk a little bit about how our program, which is called the Master of Science in Marketing Analysis, has actually come about. And so that's what we are going to talk about. By the way, this is not a session about mixed martial arts. It's just the abbreviation of Master of Marketing Analysis.
Okay. That may be a downside for that. You gotta be careful with that acronym.
Indeed, I get many followers on Twitter about that topic. But never mind.
Not our target audience.
No, absolutely not. You never know, of course. Okay, so since many of you may not be familiar with Belgium or Ghent University, this is our campus, or a view, an aerial view of our campus. We're located in downtown Ghent, which is a lesser known city in Belgium, but most of you know Bruges. You can think of Ghent as a bigger version of Bruges, also with a very nice medieval castle and buildings. And so it's a nice tourist town as well. But of course, that's not the main reason they come to study at our university, at least I hope. So we have two locations here, an old building and a new building. Some stats about the university. We are the largest public university in Belgium. We have about 40,000 students, 1,000 plus professors, 6,000 support staff, and all of this is excluding our medical school. So the medical school adds another 7,000 employees on top of that. So it's pretty big. Our faculty, however, is fairly small, 4,000 students as a whole for the Faculty of Economics and Business Administration. In terms of research, we try to do our best, as most universities, and currently we're ranked in most rankings among the top 100 universities in the world, which is not bad, I think. But let's now come to the topic that we are here for, I think. We're here to talk about how this program of marketing analytics, marketing analysis came about. I recently spotted this chart on KD Nuggets, which is one of these data mining websites, blogs, that are maintained by Gregory Pietetsky-Shapiro, and he mentions the starting years of the different analytics programs in the US. So you see there was at least one early starter, but the main bulk of the activity has been going on in recent years, with 2012 clearly the year that almost everybody started with a program. We are proud to be the longest running program in the world. So we started in 1999, way ahead of most of them. And the growth of the program actually demonstrates, I think, that it's an important field. And the fact that there's now entire conferences being devoted to this, I don't have to convince you about the importance, otherwise you wouldn't be here at this conference. But let's talk more about what makes up a marketing analyst. Upon the start of the program, we talked to many decision makers, mostly in marketing, but also at the CEO level. And the discussion was kind of interesting because what they mainly felt was that there was a lack of technical skills among the marketing students or the marketing graduates from our schools. The typical story was a marketing manager wants to hire an assistant, which is a recent graduate of university, and he wants some specific answers to questions he has. Like, for example, how many students did we recruit, did we acquire last year? So fairly easy questions that can be answered by just querying your database. And marketing students typically were not trained to to provide answers to these questions. And so we thought, why not approach the whole thing from a slightly different perspective? Because, of course, there were other programs which were more MBA-like programs. And what did they do? You have your core MBA, and then you added, for example, an analytics course to the MBA program. And of course, Gary Lillian is here in the room. He has been one of these founding fathers of marketing engineering, promoting adding marketing engineering to the curriculum of MBA students. We, however, said we're going to take a different view. We don't just want to copy that, we want to do it differently. So we set out to combine the business knowledge, so the marketing engineering, marketing research knowledge, with some very technical skills. IT skills, but IT mainly in terms of databases. And statistics and data mining knowledge. Of course, in other programs, there's also statistical courses, but we actually put a heavy emphasis on the newer techniques, on the data mining techniques, which differ to some extent. So what we tried to do is, in an 8-month period, we tried to combine these 3 different skill sets: the business knowledge, the IT knowledge, the database knowledge, and the statistics, the methods to actually provide answers to interesting questions. All of this is, in our view, a CRM specialist, and that's what we want to turn our students into, a Master of Science in Marketing Analysis graduate. But on top of that, there's one additional skill, and these are the soft skills. As we all know, you can get into, let's say, pretty difficult discussions from a technical point of view. And we all know you can't win an argument in the boardroom with technical arguments. You always need to put the business knowledge first, and also the way you communicate, the soft skills, how you frame the message you want to bring is extremely important. And so that's also why we included a lot of soft skills in a separate course, but also within each of the courses, students have to present the results of their findings in a non-technical to a non-technical audience.
Dirk, is this in English?
Yes, of course, it's a completely 100% in English program. Actually, the first year it wasn't in English. In 2000, we switched to English. Okay. So this is some screenshots of the groups of the different classes. Notice this is not a large number of students. I'll come back to this point, and it's actually one of the key points we have. If you want to have a favorable ratio of staff to students, you cannot do this, scale this up to a big group. That has been one of the learnings from our experience. We have a staff to support 20 to 25 students. If you want to try to scale this up to a 50 student, 100 students, that's not doable, at least not in the framework we are talking about. So that would be a major challenge. But this also goes along with the concept, this is not a profit operation that we're doing here. And I'll come back to that later. So small groups. So what's the USP of our program? I think it's important to emphasize that we want to be specialized, we want to be state-of-the-art, and we want to emphasize the real hands-on skills, not so much the theory. So let's come back. First of all, specialized. We want to focus on, and the focus was there right from the start, on predictive analytics. So we don't want to do or mimic a master in statistics that's doing a little bit of business interpretation. No, it's completely different. We want to emphasize the prediction and then draw business conclusions using these predictions. So it's a different focus from existing master in statistics programs. We want to, of course, it's a one-year program, and it's in customer intelligence, and it's taught in English, as I said. We want to be state-of-the-art, and state-of-the-art means in terms of, for example, the methods we're using. So the techniques we're teaching. To give you a specific example, everybody knows that churn modeling is an important aspect in analytical CRM, customer relationship management. And one of the best predicting models for churn, it's a classification problem, whether or not somebody will churn. One of the best best techniques to do so is in fact ensemble methods. So we put a heavy emphasis on the state-of-the-art techniques, like, for example, random forests, or newer techniques like generalized additive models in an ensemble way. So that just to illustrate this, but of course you cannot do that unless you're also actively contributing to this literature. And that's why most of the publications from our department, at least from the modeling section, they are actually in this literature on state-of-the-art modeling techniques. This goes along with also publishing the algorithms. So not just the academic papers, but also, for example, we contributed for R packages. So everybody is free to use an open source environment like R. And in R, you can write your own custom-made packages. And that's what we're trying to do. We try to contribute to the community in this way, to, let's say, elevate the state of the art in this respect. And then maybe the most important part is the real skills issue. Our teaching is not about theory. And this means that almost every session is very hands-on. So we start every session with a specific problem, like, for example, customer churn. We will start such a session by giving a data set to the students, a somewhat dirty data set, an average data set from a company, and we will guide them through the different steps of doing this modeling. How to come to a real solution to your business problem. So it is really problem solving with taking the students along this sometimes tedious process of getting to a meaningful answer. So it is really, we're trying to empower the student so that when he or she leaves, they are perfectly capable of repeating those steps in business. And we're not trying to, let's say, make them robots in that sense. We ask critical questions at each of these stages so that they can reflect on, let's say, what are the key choices you're making whenever you go through such a process. But still, we're giving them the specific tools and methods to come to such solutions to the given problem. Most of the examples we're using are not stylized case studies. We are using the projects we've done in the past, and since we're running this program for 14 years, we have a big set of, let's say, past projects that we can reuse in our teaching and actually do the case again, but then in an accelerated fashion, because of course you don't have time to explain every detail of a specific case. But we do real life projects already during teaching, but then at the end of the, let's say, the last 3 months of our program are entirely devoted to doing a hands-on project with a company that actually pays for this project. So it is the companies paying the bill here. It is not the students paying the bill. We will come back actually the next point. Tuition fee is dirt cheap. So and we actually struggle with this issue because we only charge about 600 euros for participants to this program. And some say low price is low quality. We hope that this is not the case. And I guess we have the track record by now to say that it is quite okay. The challenge that comes with this is if something is very cheap, it tends to lead to overconsumption. And so people, let's say even companies, they say, oh, 600 euros, that's very cheap, so we will enroll our entire staff in the program. And then you get only partial involvement of that staff. So there is kind of a challenge to that too. So we have to actively manage this process because, as I said, we can only take 20, 25 students in a very intense way through this entire process to making them into analysts.
So you've done that because, you know, given that you're a marketing person,
yes,
and you just explain why you shouldn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could very well have posted a high price and then given discounts, you know, if you will, sort of tuition waivers, if you will, to specific students. Is there a reason you must have debated that?
Absolutely.
I would certainly not have recommended this.
No, I agree, but this has been a big issue from the start. But as you're a little bit familiar with the Belgian situation, so you know that this is the standard tuition fee for all Belgian programs. And at that time, there was basically no discussion about this. This entirely changed in recent months. And we're now thinking of raising this tuition fee because of also political pressure. The educational landscape has changed quite dramatically in Europe and is changing. So we might come back to this issue. But actually, I've always been in favor of selecting candidates based on quality, not so much on willingness to pay or ability to pay. So that's also why we hardly promote this program in, let's say, developed countries, although we do get a lot of candidates from the US and Canada, for example, but we actively promote it in Latin America and other areas of the globe where we think that our program will add lots of value. And it's actually the case that we got quite some candidates from those areas, and they are doing great in their home countries. So
so what's the justification for the Belgian taxpayer to pay most of the money to educate somebody from Latin America so that they can go back to Latin America and apply marketing analytics to compete with the Belgian companies?
Good point. A very interesting issue. The Belgian taxpayer pays sky-high taxes, right, and is complaining about it. I'm also a taxpayer, so I should join the debate. I think you have to put it take a look at it from a bigger perspective. What we did with this program is actually start an entire group of researchers that combined knowledge in a new field, the analytics field, and we hope we are actively contributing in state-of-the-art academic journals. We're not just educating master level students, but we're also taking them to the PhD level. So, and by now it's about 15 students have gone through the entire process. 15 PhD students may not sound a lot, but as you know, it's a lot of work to get them through the process. So, and we have about 100 plus papers about different topics on this. So I think it's if you take a look at it from a broader perspective, it is justified because you're creating centers of expertise.
I'm just
yes, no problem.
So there's no difference in the tuition whether or not you're Belgian?
Everybody is treated equally, so everybody has the same tuition fee, although that might change with pressure from Europe and so on. but we'll see. So, what are the principles? I already hinted at the fact that we're trying to combine hard skills with soft skills. So, we're really trying to teach them analytical, state-of-the-art analytical techniques, empowering them to do database retrieval, do lots of computer programming, which was a bit scary at first to the audience, but we've managed to get them along this path of becoming more technical, which is necessary if you want to be a bridge person between the IT and the more technical departments, and then the, let's say, top management and the marketing department. But again, I want to highly emphasize the soft skills that are necessary to be successful as an analyst. So you need excellent presentation skills. You need to be efficient at meetings. You need to be able to talk to a client about a project, manage expectations during the project. And these are skills that typical students do not possess. And it's through taking them through a real project that they actually start noticing these things. And that's, even though formally they may look a little bit soft, these are very important skills. We also try to de-emphasize exams. The Belgian system was a little bit heavily emphasizing exam schedules and so on. This is an advanced master's degree. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to empower them with tool sets, with knowledge, so less emphasis on exams and more on actually doing projects. So it's permanent evaluation, open book exams, they can use whatever, which is kind of unusual in the Belgian context. It's more like memorizing things and so on. So, but the success of the American system has shown that these are important steps you need to take. A lot of peer evaluation is also going on. That's also an important point. The students have to learn to interact in teams. It's not just the outcome of a project that's important, but it's also the process. How did a team interact during the performance of their project? So it's important, the process, and of course we cannot be with them all the time, so we rely on peer evaluation to get insights into that. Of course you may say, okay, this program, an analytics program, is it all new? And of course there were precursors to, let's say, more analytics-driven project, like, for example, the traditional master in statistics. They have been around for a very long time. The OR programs or the computer science programs. Basically, I think there is a big difference. What these programs, what analytics programs should do is really make the bridge, combination of the business side of things and the, let's say, the hard side, the scientific side, the analytical side of things. So it's combining these two worlds into one program. That's what makes an analytics program, at least what we think. So as I already talked about this issue, you could also take the path of having an MBA and adding some analytics courses to it. And that may be fine, and some people may prefer that. We said, no, let's take a different approach. Let's go all analytics. Let's go all deep. Guide them on the path of becoming really an analyst, give them all the tools to do so, but never forget about the business problem you're trying to solve. So both worlds, trying to combine both worlds. So if you think about analytics in general, you have these three phases. So first of all, you go for a descriptive analysis, then a predictive analysis, and then a normative analysis or prescriptive analysis. Once you have good predictions, you can use those predictions in optimizing activities towards your clients, for example. In our program that we started in 1999, we heavily emphasized the first two parts, descriptive and predictive. We kind of a little bit de-emphasized the prescriptive for the simple reason that we didn't want to have OR as, let's say, a selection criterion upon entry. Because let's be honest, this is a one-year program, or actually an 8-month program. In 8 months, you cannot teach them everything. So you have to make choices. And one of these choices was that, okay, let's leave the traditional OR techniques, linear programming, mixed integer programming, and so on. All of them very interesting and useful techniques, but we cannot do everything in one program. So we decided to keep the MMA program to limit it to the descriptive and predictive side. But then, 2005, we had the opportunity to add an optional side to the Master of Science in Business Engineering. This is an existing program that has been successful for decades. It's after the Second World War that these programs actually became very popular in Europe. And so they have been very successful. It's a 5-year program. But we offer this package, this analytics package, as an add-on, optional package on top of the existing business engineering curriculum. And this has been running since 2005, and we've got great success because then you add the OR skills. Of course, these people are trained, highly skilled in OR as well, from their basic training, their basic engineering training. So we can also leverage those skills. The other side to running a successful program is, of course, facilities. You need to not only have lots of teachers, lots of students, but you also need hardware to run everything, and this cannot be underestimated. For example, we are running a fairly small program, but if you take a look at our IT facilities, they are, let's say, fairly big. We run at the moment 150 servers. We have access to the Flemish supercomputer, which is ranked 118 in the world, in the top 500. And of course, as a recent development, we've been investing heavily in big data, and we have our own big data clusters to be able to do so. But this whole story doesn't come without software. And here, I must say that SAS has been very instrumental, has been very helpful in guiding us through this process. Because right from the start, we started teaching the SAS programming language in order to leverage the capabilities of the students and make them useful in, let's say, at very short notice. Because of course we need to get results to the companies quickly, and the SAS software is excellent. And let's say if you put yourself back into the mind of 1999, at that time definitely SAS was the choice. At the moment we're switching more and more to R. So the SAS skills are of course still very valued in business, but we also have this tendency towards the open source communities, and we definitely want to invest in those as well. That's why we also contributed a lot of packages to R, and we also want our students to have these capabilities. And R is an excellent platform nowadays to do analytical studies. So we kind of have a commercial leg and then let's say an open source leg, the SAS and the R. Of course, you need other facilities, but these are not really special. Maybe I could also emphasize our electronic learning environment, including videos. So we also use videos, taped sessions of, for example, project presentations of previous teams, the good and the bad, to help them in their learning process. Okay. To show you the data centers, this is our new data center we built at Ghent University. It's a whole new facility with, even if the power goes out, we have 2 diesel engines and they spin up and so on. It's not being financed by our department, clearly. It's being financed by the whole university. Okay, the program overview, I already talked a lot about that, I think, but let's go a little bit more in detail. These are the basic skills that we want to teach them upon the start of the program. So these are communication skills. Of course, they need to know a little bit about what's going on in marketing. So it's still a marketing program after all. And we also teach them the database skills. And then they have basically a choice to choose 2 out of these 3 electives. You have the small data set capabilities, like if you have surveys, you want to analyze a survey, you want to do market research. So these are market research courses. Then you have marketing modeling and customer relationship management courses. And then you have marketing communications courses. And students choose 2 out of 3. And of course, everything is geared towards the project, because the project is really key to the success of the students. That's their first real learning how to do a serious sized project. So in terms of program content for market research, we also use SPSS in that part. We also do adaptive conjoint analysis, ACA, sawtooth software, and so on. In the marketing models, we use SAS and R, and in marketing communications, it's more a traditional, let's say, marketing communications class, with the added advantage of also having a small project. Yes, there's a question.
Of a group of students in your class, what percent at least not each of these 3 tracks?
It's, let's say, it's equally divided. Because we have this, you would expect the analytical side to have fewer students. But since we have this strong reputation of being analytical, and we also added one of the analytical courses as a mandatory course, this avoids students going to the soft side of things exclusively. And so it's an important point, and there was much debate throughout the course of the program. What we should do, should we make the analytics part mandatory or not? There has been a big debate, but after a while we decided that the analytics is really our key differentiator, and so we want to heavily invest, and the students must take that course. So there is no debate about that.
Would you say that students from each of the 3 tracks are equally in demand for the course?
No, of course not. It's the analytics that drives everything. Because, of course, other students are also in demand, but then our program is not a differentiator anymore. And so it's important that we emphasize our USP. We're in marketing after all. The project is very important to us. Why? First of all, to teach the students these soft skills and these project management skills. And we do these projects for many companies, also international companies. For example, we had many years, we had successful agreements with dunnhumby. And students were sent over to London to do an internship, a very intense relationship with them. That has been great. Some of them are still working for dunnhumby, of these students. Others have moved on. So this has been a great, but I also want to emphasize that this is the way we finance our program. The server infrastructure I showed you doesn't come for free. We also have to pay these servers. We have to pay for the electricity and the cooling. So what do? We charge companies 15,000 euros for a project. So we do multiple projects during the year, and companies actually pay. You can think of it as companies picking up the tab instead of the students paying for the admission. That's our core concept that we are running. I could give some examples of projects we've done in the past. For example, for Canal Plus, we did a customer churn project. What is Canal Plus? It's some of you may know them. It's a French company originally. They have premium pay TV channels. Think of it as the Comcast of Belgium. They had a problem when they came to us at this moment somewhere in 2004. They had this evolution of number of subscribers to their service, which looked great until 1996. It stabilized, and then it started deteriorating. And so here they said we have to do something. And so they hired the student consultants, and we came up with an approach. So what do? You build a churn model, and you do activities to alleviate churn. So we did both steps. So we built a churn model, and we actually did field experiments all within this program. So the students were taken along with management to actually implement. For example, we distributed free movie tickets to alleviate churn. We also did a satisfaction survey. We organized a unique event, and we had a control group to assess whether our activities actually had an impact. And it turned out that on average they had a churn rate of 16%. By our activities, we were able to reduce churn substantially, and of course these are highly significant. And if you do calculate the economics behind it, just our student project brought them an additional revenue of 68,000 euros. And so they were able to hire one of the students of the team, and he actually continued for a PhD at our department, working on the project, continuing the project. And the basic result during the student project was that we stabilized customer churn by these minor activities, because don't forget, we only approached 5,000 customers here. So by small activities, you can actually have a big impact on customer churn results. And this turned into a highly profitable venture. In fact, from this project, we had an academic result of having a published paper for the PhD student. And we had the business result of having a happy company with reduced customer churn, and with a built-in process to actually repeat this year after year after year. So they did not just pay for a PhD, they actually got a working solution out of this. A more recent example is the one of Luma Marketing Technologies. They actually looked for a system to help them in their customer acquisition process. So this is a customer acquisition project. They wanted to pre-screen potential leads. So before sending out your sales force, what you want to do is you want to pre-screen your leads. But how to do that? Well, one of the ways is to use sophisticated analytics. And we actually used two sets of techniques. One of them was if you take a new list, a cold list of leads, potential leads, what you can do is you can leverage the information you can publicly obtain about these potential customers, and you can look, are they similar to our existing customers? So we looked at nearest neighbor methods to assess similarity, and then as soon as you have sufficient number of these customers that were turned from leads into potential customers and, let's say, became customers, we then analyzed those conversions in more detail, and we could use more sophisticated techniques like random forest or let's say the lower tech logistic regression, which was the technique we actually implemented for that company. And of course, we have frequent meetings with, in this case, this was a US company that actually came to us, and so it's a startup from Silicon Valley, and they came on regular visits to us. And this is the final solution we worked out for them, but I don't have time to go into detail. Again, here we obtained also academic success by having a publication in the Industrial Marketing Management Journal, and another PhD student was hired to continue this project, and we also got real business results by using the model we created. There was a 60% improvement in the lead conversion. Let me also talk a little bit briefly about the Inflow. We have a very broad mix of people coming into the program. Some of them have industry experience, but very few of them, to be honest. Most of them come straight from their basic undergraduate and graduate training and go on for our 8-month training. After the program, there's huge job opportunities. We have people working for all of these companies, and it has been great where the different students have ended up with. The career path of a graduate, and that may also be an interesting observation, through their path to analytics, many of the graduates actually it was kind of a fast track towards top management to many of them. So instead of going through the traditional steps that you would go through in marketing, like becoming a product manager or junior product manager, then senior product manager, then become assistant marketing manager, then marketing manager, and then general manager in the ideal case, we've seen that by using analytics, people fast-tracked this process. And some of our graduates, which of course the program has just been running for 14 years, so there is limited experience in this field, but still we have at least 3 people that made it to general management. And not just small companies, these are some of them. One example is in Latin America, a real big software company is being managed by an MMA graduate, so we're really proud of that. There are a few success factors to all of this. We think that being specialized, emphasizing the real skills and state-of-the-art techniques, and also in our case, because we have such a low tuition fee, we have to be very selective upon entry. So the acceptance rate to our admission is just 5%. That's for those who actually fill out all of the documents, and they are substantial. So it is a fairly strict screening process. What are next steps, potential next steps? Well, big data. Everybody is talking about big data. I should have renamed this session to big data, then the room would be filled, as we saw previous days. But many people are talking about it, we're actually doing it. We have our own big data clusters. 3 of them, we're running all 3 different alternative setups. So this is a huge investment we're taking, and it's already paying off in several projects. So we're really proud to be leading in this respect as well. We also emphasize more and more, let's say, the prescriptive part of the 3-step process: descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. So this last stage is being emphasized more and more. This is where you can find more information. We also have a blog about not just the program, but about analytics in general. And of course, we welcome you to follow us on Twitter as well. And most of you who are on Twitter actually saw some of my tweets, I guess, from this conference. So this was my talk. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
I would imagine one of the challenges in actually constructing and building marketing analytics is that today there's kind of a lack of sort of textbook material and other pedagogical resources. And do you agree? And so how do you overcome?
I completely agree with the fact that there is far too few good textbooks about this topic. We were kind of helped by your book, by the marketing engineering book by Gary Lillian. This book is it's an excellent starting point, but given that we are emphasizing more the technical side of it, we have to extend in that respect. And so we are actually close to publishing our own book about the program. So very soon there will be a book detailing the different steps, including our exercises we're using in class. So there will be text material coming soon, because there is this clear lack of material available. I fully agree.
Yeah, I was wondering, why an 8-month program instead of a year or 2-year master's?
That's because of the Belgian systems. So the Belgian system says you're running a 2-semester, so an 8-month program, which runs from the last week of September till the end of June. So that's our normal academic period. And then there is a long summer period.
No, that's right. You have vacation all the time.
Students like to enjoy a long vacation, but it's also a useful period for those who failed on some subjects. So if a student fails on any of the subjects, he or she has to retake that during the summer months. So it's for those of the students that are lucky, they have a long summer break. The others have to retake in the summer.
But why not say 16 months? 2 years?
Yes. So the business engineering degree, actually there we have 2 years.
Okay.
Because they have it's a 5-year program, and the last 2 years we tailor them or have a tailor-made program for the analytics path. So I completely agree that it is better to have more time, but as we all know, it's already a substantial investment of the students to invest an additional year on top of their existing investment to come to the analytics side of things. So it was a compromise.
Because an MBA program will be 2 years, yeah. Right? So.
Yeah. Although in Belgium it's also 1 year. So you have the different systems.
Other questions?
Because of the different backgrounds that you have in your intakes,
yes.
I'm guessing, I don't know whether that's the case, that you guys have at different levels of statistical or mathematical knowledge.
Yes.
How do you deal with that in such a short period of time?
Interesting point and very valid point. So there is a very heterogeneous inflow, which means that there is a large variety in their knowledge about statistics. But at least there is a minimal level, because that's being tested upon entry. So there is an entry admission part in statistics that they have to pass, which is already quite a high hurdle, and that makes for the low acceptance rate of 5%. So there is a substantial entry requirement. But nevertheless, your point is very valid. There is much heterogeneity in that perspective, from that perspective, but think of it also from a positive side. People that have more knowledge in the statistics area may have deficiencies in other areas. They may be worse in soft skills or in other skills, and by doing lots of teamwork, what we try to do is we try to get them, all of them, to a fairly similar level after the first 6 months, let's say. And then they are ready to do the project that is, again, a very integrating experience where they have team members, the different team members specialize in the different areas. So you may have a highly skilled statistician working more on the statistics of things, but then still interacting with all of the other team members. So it is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. So we try to turn the challenge into an opportunity.
So you guys actually allocate the people to like different groups, like you do it, the program doesn't?
We allocate them. At first we do everything randomly because we want, it's a small group as you know, so at first we want all of them to know all of the other participants. And then after a while we specialize a little bit, and to some extent they are also self-selecting. If you leave students the opportunity, they will naturally pick the things where they are, what they are good at, even though maybe that doesn't create the optimal learning experience to 100%.
We're out of time, but please feel free to talk with Dirk later. Thank you very much, and please don't forget to fill out the surveys. I think they're located at the back of the room. Thank you.